Recording in progress.
I know that sound. I know that voice.
We know you do, and welcome everyone to Drinks with Johnny again. Today, I'm very excited. I'm joined by legendary BMX rider, X Games guy, actor, punk rock musician, so many things that we'll get into of this man.
Podcaster, comedian.
Podcaster, comedian. Let's go.
Asshole!
As the biggest one of them all that I missed, I'm so sorry, Rick. You sent me that one sheet over that said you must address me among all of my accolades as the asshole. So yeah. I'm sorry I missed that one. But otherwise, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm good. Stoked to be here. Thanks, man.
Are you being good? Because we were running a little late because you had some issues. You had a real rough start of the day.
Yeah, well, I bought my son a truck yesterday, and so we're out cleaning it. He's going to be 16 soon, and then I was going to move my car because watching his long story short. He's like, dude, your tire's flat. I was like, what? And so I ran over to Staple. Anyways, AAA came out. I couldn't do it, so I had to pump it up and take it to the shop. Whatever. No, it's not like anything major, but it's one of those things where, dude,
it's a fucking inconvenience.
You know? What's going on? So,
yeah. It's a real fucking inconvenience, and it's when you're about to be on the biggest podcast in the world, Drinks with Johnny. You know, it only when it rains, it pours, man.
I look like Axl Rose. Like, I can't do 11:30, bro.
Dude, but you just mentioned it, like glossed over it again. Even in our text messages, you're like, I ran over a Staple. I'm like, that doesn't pop a tire. Explain this a little bit
It's not
further.
A paper staple, dude.
Well, what kind of staple is it? That's why I'm asking. Hey, I'm here to ask the questions. This is my fucking show, all right?
I mean,
what the fuck kind of staple is this?
It just looked like a staple you have in a staple gun. It wasn't even that big. It's just my life.
See, Sam? See?
It really was?
Literally.
I thought it was like a construction staple or something.
I mean, it was a construction one, but it was the size of one that you would buy like a staple gun. Legitimately.
Is like, that a... What?
You know how you can buy your own staple gun? You can hang up like a Christmas lights.
Yeah. Just one of those, huh?
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, anyways, whatever.
That's wild. What kind of car? What kind of car is this?
I have an FJ Cruiser.
Okay.
We're a Toyota family. My daughter has an FJ Cruiser. I just bought him a Toyota Tacoma. You know
wait. You're still a Toyota family after I just heard you on the Adam Carolla show like last week or something talking about this shit?
Hey man, you know, it's like, you know, they're reliable. You know, they're good trucks. You get 300.
But aren't they just according to that show, according to Adam Carolla, and shout out to Adam Carolla and the Carolla show, you know, the Cadillac converters, I guess, are too easily able to be stolen. So someone.
Oh my God, that happened at my house the other night.
You know, it's happening. It's happening all the time, Sam. But if you watch this episode, Adam Carolla brought up a good point. I guess it was someone in government in LA here, somewhere in Southern California, I assume. Maybe Rick, you can talk about this a little bit more.
I know who she is, but I don't know her name. She was just basically saying that it's Toyota's fault.
It's Toyota's fault that everyone's stealing the Cadillac converters because they made them too easily accessible on the vehicle. It's not the criminals or anybody else who's buying criminal products. It is the manufacturer themselves' fault for making it too easily able to be stolen.
And then what they'll do, he's saying what Toyota do is like apologize and then come out and do like make a car where it's harder to get, but then your price is going to go up $2,000. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's how it's always.
I'm
like,
sorry,
okay,
I'm so sorry.
Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing that happened during COVID and everything. Everyone's like complaining, oh, the prices are so high and everything. It's like, yeah, do you think they were going to come back down after they went up? Like they had all these things all these regulations that were put on everything cost extra money for the people creating this to create it. So now that money then gets put back down onto the consumer. It happens every time, and they're not going to go back from it just because COVID's over or whatever. No, it's not like they're going to be like, out of the kindness of our heart, we're going back to the old prices. Like, no.
Back to the 99-cent menu.
Yeah. Which doesn't even fucking exist anymore. God damn it.
Taco Bell?
So bad. It's so mad. I'm so mad about this for all these artists and guys like yourself, Rick, who I know we were fucking traveling in cars and vans and those fucking golden arches, those dollar menu value menus that we used to fucking go for. The kids don't even have that option anymore.
No, they don't. They don't. You know, there used to be a sign at McDonald's when we were kids. It was like, you know, hamburgers or quarter or some shit. And at the bottom it said smiles free. Yeah. Nowadays it's like And it
No
costs
smile costs you 50 cents.
Right?
It's an extra 30
That's the
cents.
only thing on the value meal, actually. It's $1 for a smile.
Yeah.
Smiles aren't free no more, bro. Do that shit around here.
Dude,
Buy a smile, get a smile free. We got that deal going this month.
yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
So going back, let's get into a little bit of Rick Thorne now. We shot the shit, made a little joke here. Happy to have you here, obviously, my man. It's a real honor. And going back, I remember hearing about you and knowing about you in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. I think we were even on a couple of Warp Tours together. Like if you've been out there a few times. Yeah. But never crossed paths. Never had a sit down conversation like this. So I'm very, very excited to have you on. And I've been listening to you on your podcast, the Rick Thorne podcast, or the Rick Thorne Show podcast, which everyone could find streaming everywhere. And doing a little bit of research before you're coming on, so I don't look like a complete asshole. Yeah, man. I was listening to. I didn't realize you grew up in. What was it, Kansas? Where you were out in the Midwest?
Yeah, I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. Well, there's two. There's Kansas City, Kansas, and there's Kansas City, Missouri. So when you say Kansas City, people think it's the state of Kansas, but when you live there, it's the Missouri side, bro. So yeah, I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah, learned how to ride there. I lived there for 23 years of my life, and then I moved to St. Louis for like 4 years. Then I moved to California. So a lot of people always thought that I was from California, but even the people when I lived in Missouri thought I was from California.
I mean, you have a California vibe, man. I've lived here my whole life. You have a California vibe, that's for sure.
Thanks, man. It's always a dream to me. I mean, look, dude, every day I wake up and I go ride, or if I'm not riding or doing something outside and it's sunny, I just feel like I'm not living what I still feel like a little kid, man. It's weird.
Dude, that must have been a pain in the ass then, though, growing up, because you didn't have that. You had seasons, but I mean, I'm glad I'm bringing up seasons on this because it did. I was listening to you talk about this on another show, and I never realized it. But like, you're talking about the new generation of riders and extreme athletes, rather doing the X Games, doing all these different crazy shit. And you come from much, an old school mentality, for lack of a better term, like the way you learned on the bike, the way, you and your friends would learn how to skate or whatever the case may be. You didn't have foam pits. You didn't have these blow up fucking things to land on. In fact, I found it very interesting. You guys used to pile up fucking snow and fall into it.
Yeah, dude. One day, the way okay, look, just so everyone knows out there listening, this is before society was conditioned to like BMX and skates like a sport. This is before, if you were outside of the industry looking in, that like you just didn't understand it at all. And we get a lot of heat for it all the time, riding bikes on the street and doing stuff. And people want to chase us, or get in fights, or all kinds of stuff. So when we were kids coming up, there was no kind of like facilities like Woodward, or people building foam pits, or people figured out resi ramps or to learn stuff. So when we were young, like super young, maybe 11, 12 years old, one of my friends, I don't even know who, said we should try jumping in the snow because we didn't go to school one day. So we would all just go ride our bikes all day long in the snow. And they pushed all the snow into the middle of the lot. And to us, it looked like something that'd be fun to jump into. And it just kind of escalated into this like snow jumping became a thing, to where, every year, we didn't have foam pits, or no one knew how, thought about building one or anything like that. So we look forward to that. And if we didn't do snow in the summer, we would do lake jumping.
Yeah, I heard about that too. And but you said the lake jumping was a little bit more risky than the snow. Yeah,
because if you've ever, it's kind of like, when we would jump in the snow, it was soft. So there was you kind of had a window period of like when you could, because the Missouri, what happens is that it shovels and then it's soft and then it'll melt and then at night it becomes hard. So then it's like ice. So you only got like a couple of days to do that. The water was gnarly because if you were, if you ever fall and hit your back or belly flop or whatever, if you're riding, you would fall and you would hit your face or your head. You'd be like, oh shit, this is gnarly. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I remember one time I did a 720 into the water and my head smacked my ear, and then I got an ear infection, so I had to go get my ear drained. You can still get worked in the water for sure. You can still get worked in a foam pit if you're not careful. Your bike can still hit you. But climbing out of a foam pit's a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Well, I mean,
you see my old ass with my kid trying to do it. Like, I go to those things and I'm like,
yeah, just the foam pits the foam pits me and Sam are talking about are like at the trampoline parks though that we're fucking jumping.
Yeah.
Well, that begs the question. You talked about getting. What's that?
You guys rode bikes?
I didn't even learn. This is going to be funny for all the listeners if they don't already know. I didn't learn how to ride a bike with only 2 wheels on it until I was 12 years old.
what?
What?
Yeah.
That's
I'm
crazy, bro.
Keep
So
that one right here.
I mean, it's one of those things. It's a notch on the belt. I just didn't need to learn until I was 12. I guess I don't know. But
hold on one second. Okay. Do you have kids?
yeah, I've got one child. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on a second. What do you want the money for?
Well, my kid's not old enough for that yet. I'm not there yet.
How old?
My son is going to be 7 on Wednesday, day after this episode's going to drop.
I got a 9 and a 12-year-old.
And then you have what?
A 9 and a 12-year-old.
You guys got fun ages. Wait till they start driving.
No,
thanks.
I don't want to wait.
Yeah, we're enjoying this.
I'm good where I'm at right now. My
Yeah,
son's
you want to. Yeah, I mean, they're cool and all. Yeah. I'm kidding.
But no, while we're talking about getting in and out of foam pits and everything like that.
You said you started riding. You couldn't ride the training wheels.
Yeah, we're not letting that go, fucker.
Wait, no. I'm changing the subject. This is my show. I'm changing the subject.
That's like a Guinness World Book of Records kind of shit.
Yeah. Well, I grew up like my dad. It wasn't anybody else's fault but my own. My dad tried to get me out a couple times. I ate it and I didn't like it. I mean, like at the normal age of 3-4 years old, I fucking eat shit and scrape my leg, and I was like, ah. Then every time after that, he'd ask, hey, you want to go try and ride the bike? And I'd be like, fuck no, I don't want to do that. And then next thing I knew, I was like 12 years old, and like all my friends, we moved from where I grew up, not far, just another couple miles, but that added 2 miles. I was like, fuck, I need to know how to learn to ride a bike so I could see my friends. So then I finally did. But That's neither here nor there. First of all, because I like changing the topic when it's about me and my shortcomings. You mentioned getting in and out of those foam pits are a pain in the ass, but I don't see how it's any easier to pull a bike out of a lake or a pile of snow. So explain that to me.
Well, I never get left alone, bro.
Well, you're on a podcast right now, Rick. I'm supposed to ask you questions.
Yeah, no, not you. Climbing out of the snow was easy. Climbing out of the water, I'll tell you how we did that. My daughter wants me to give her $20 to buy an Hawaiian shirt for a theme tonight. I'm sorry.
That's all good.
Dude, I'm in the middle of a podcast interview. Can you please stop? Jeez Louise, keep pressing me.
No, that's real life. That's real life. That's what
I know, but podcasts are real. And I'm sorry to be,
Nah, don't worry about it.
Okay, so when you climb out of the water, so the bike wouldn't fall because you'd have to dive down to the bottom to get your bike, which would be a nightmare. So what we would do is we would tie like a milk carton onto the handlebar, so that would make it help it float, or like a life jacket. You tie a life jacket around the handlebar, and then your bike wouldn't sink, and you would be able to float. And then the snow wasn't so bad. It's actually harder to climb out of a foam pit because the thing about foam pits is they're big blocks of foam, right? So when you put your hand down to get out, you sink, and then you kind of keep sinking, and you're kind of like, and it depends on how you fall into the pit. If you fall in the pit and you kind of like are buried in the foam, you're trying to paddle your way out. So when you're trying to put weight on to support your weight, you're sinking with it. So it's kind of like you kind of almost got to like get up, push off your bike to get out of it. You know what I mean? We figured out a way though. I used to have a backyard foam pit, and we would have pieces of the foam, but then we would have half of it be couch cushions that I got like thrift stores and shit that were bigger.
So you didn't slide. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And also, I'm also glad to learn about the bikes in the lake. You didn't just strap them to yourselves like a surfboard or something, because you couldn't do that with the kind of, I would imagine, the kind of tricks you guys were trying to pull into the lake. You can't be that attached to your bike, no?
I mean, no, because the lake, you got to let your bike go. I mean, you can go down with the ship. That's what happened to me. I tried a 720. I'm like, I'm not letting go. And I came up short, and that's when I smacked my head. And then I started wearing one of those water polo helmets with the little thing on the side. I tried to have ear protection. But I mean, that was fun though, dude, because it would be like so hot in Missouri, so humid, and that first jump, you're sweating like you're hot and and it's sticky and shit. And the first jump was always the best because you land in this water. It was always the best. It was fun. I mean, what we had to do, man. I mean, there's things that's escalated how they have, like with TV and competitions and stuff like that. It's kind of become formalized, like in a sense, like you got your foam pitch, you got what a resi ramp is, by any chance?
I've heard I've heard the term a few times now. I assume it's like, you explain it. Why am I going to try to explain it when you're the professional?
So imagine wooden landing, but it's kind of like lower. Like here's box jump, right? It's flat and it's lower because there's like 3 feet of foam, and on top of the foam is a plastic mat. So the mat rolls down. So you land and you can still ride away, but it absorbs your landing. So like if you look at like a lot of like we would always say, okay, do it into the foam and then do it in the resi, and then you really haven't mastered it until you take all of that away and do it like and then as the sports kind of progressed, that really helped a lot of people catapult a lot of people learn like a lot of big tricks. But for us, like just triple back, dude did a triple front flip recently. It's so sick. Like
I heard you mention that actually, and I honestly I don't follow closely enough. Like when big things happen, I'll watch a little bit of the X Games here and there. But like, I also heard you said that this kid's like 12 years old that did that.
Oh, the 12-year-old did a triple back.
Triple back, that's what it was.
The triple fronts are Willie. He does like so much. He's doing this trick now where he does a backflip, but the bike stays normal. So he like backflips off the bike and gets back on it. It's sick. It's crazy the tricks they're doing. But it's all been evolutions that started in, lake jumping and snow jumping. It started from that, and dudes all through the Midwest would do that shit. Not just Kansas City dudes, dudes in Illinois and Nebraska, wherever. They would lake jumping was just a thing that you did. Yeah, but now it's turned into kind of like it's a good way to learn, I remember when I first learned backflips, check this story out. I tore my urethra, right?
We were going to ask you about that on your podcast. You did a solo episode for everyone to go check out and recall the entire story.
Oh, bro,
tearing your urethra and going to the hospital and the aftermath and everything. So I've heard it from the podcast, but I want to hear it from you now. Now that I want to hear it too.
I was cringing the whole. You got to tell.
Okay, well, I'll just tell you. I'll tell you. It's going to be kind of long. I'll tell you how I tore the urethra. But the story is that when I tore my urethra, I was in San Jose. We drove like 7 dudes in an Astro van from Oklahoma City.
Shout out to an Astro van, by the way. I heard that in the story a few times. My dad had an Astro van growing up. I fucking loved that thing. Love that van.
They were bomb. And I was riding a skate contest at San Jose skate park, and my chain broke, and I racked myself, and I went to take a piss, and it was all blood. I was like, whoa. And I didn't have health insurance. So I told everybody, hey, I'm pissing blood. And they're like, dude. And I'm like, maybe I broke a blood vessel or something. It's a stupid denial. So I went back to the hotel.
Blood vessel. I want to know why that would make
I don't even know there's blood vessels there. I don't know.
There's definitely blood vessels there. That's how you get an erection. So just blood has to rush there somehow.
Why are you riding with a heart on that whole time? That was really
I know,
weird.
Dude. Well, Rick, that's how Rick gets down, apparently.
I went to pee and it was all blood, dude. It was gnar. So I went back to the hotel room, laid down, went to bed, and woke up about 2 a.m, and my bed was all full of blood. And Matt Hoffman was sleeping next to me because we all just slept, in one room, about 8 dudes. And like I'm just it's blood everywhere. So I go, I need to go to the doctor. And so anyways, I went to the urologist in the middle of the night in his hospital, and he says, I think you tore your urethra. And I was like, I don't even know what is that. I didn't know that was the term. To me it's my pee hole. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They call it a urethra. And he goes, we gotta shoot an X-ray. And they shot this solution into my penis and shot an X-ray to see if there was a tear in the urethra, right? And they go, you got a tear, but we're not sure. We got to put a camera in there. I was like, what? So he's like, put a camera in, looking around. He's like, yeah, you tore your urethra. I was like, what are we going to do? And he's like, well, you got to get a catheter because if you don't, it'll heal, and then it's got to heal around the catheter.
Around the catheter, right? Okay.
And I was like, okay, but just so you know, I pissed like a sprinkler. It didn't work. I'm like.
To this day? To this day?
I sit down when I pee, actually. I have to. Otherwise, I make a mess everywhere. Anyway, so the day I get this catheter out, dude, I had a ramp in the back of my, well, I got other stories while I had it. I rode while I had my catheter and fell and busted my chin. Had to go get that.
Yeah, I heard you talking about you were still riding while you attached the bag with Velcro to the to yourself or the bike or what?
My leg. Sometimes
your leg, yeah.
This bag, and so I was like, "Fuck, I'm gonna ride." And people thought I was nuts, but I was like, "I just can't sit still." Anyhow, the day that I got my catheter out, I had a ramp in the back of my truck, like a kicker that we would use to go lake jumping, and I got my catheter out and went down to the lake and did a bunch of flips into the lake. And they said, "Oh, the sun's going down. Let's get back to my homie's backyard. I'm going to do a backflip we did a mattress." And what we would do is we would put a mattress down and dudes would pull a blanket like a fireman kind of thing. I don't know what that's called, but dudes catch.
Yeah. Like the parachute kind of thing.
Well, yeah. So you could land it and they could hold you so you wouldn't slam so hard. And I did that shit into the mattress and it bounced off into the ground. I said, "Take it away. All of it. I'm going for it, man. This is it." And then the sun's going down, and then as the sun's going down, I landed a backflip. And the next day I went on tour for 2 months. And it was my goal to get that before I left to go to tour because I had never landed one. So it's like, that's just how you rolled back then. You just had to, you didn't want to miss out on the opportunities and be in the scene and what was going on. And like, I was like, that's the only way I'm going to learn it. So I just would visualize backflips the whole time I had a piss bag. Just be like, "Oh, I'm do backflips." That's how I learned them. Crazy.
Well, you mentioned you didn't have insurance then, and I think that's still. I was just curious listening to that story too about. I feel like back in the day, bands could hit and make a little bit more than they are now for like selling, things. But I feel like the sport, when you heard back in the day, the paydays maybe weren't as big as what paydays are today for sports. Would you agree that's how the games are?
Oh, dude, I got to step in there real quick and
no?
help. I'm gonna help Rick answer this one. His first X game, he made $80 on. I just learned that story.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
You did your homework. Oh yeah, back then the payday, but even the payday today is what it should be. I mean, is it ever going to be what it should be? It's better. But it's like, I see dudes winning contests now and they're making a couple grand, and I'm like, that's it. Like, when dudes win the X Games, I'm not, hey, 30 grand, but then California's right there taking their state tax. And if you live in Pennsylvania, they're getting their tax. And by the time we get taxed on it, it's not 30 grand.
Right.
And 30 grand is a lot of money. It's a decent amount of money. But what the ratings and what the sponsorships are pulling in off of it. I mean, a lot of us, okay, with action sports, the difference is that we can have our own sponsors. We're not like football or basketball, and we can't do that. You can have your select sponsors on the outside, but for us, like X Games, I'm not dissing the X Games by any means because it catapulted a lot of people's career and even mine. But they're not paying for your travel, they're not paying for your hotel. The sponsors are covering that. They're paying you just for what place you get. But the flip side is you get to wear all your stuff, and by wearing all your stuff, then you get bonuses from your sponsor. You're able to get more sponsors. It's just a different world. But yeah, the pay, you're right. My first X Games, dude, they gave us this remote control car. And I grew up in Missouri where like we would find shit at garage sales and return it. My grandmother taught me all that shit. And so I got this remote control car. My first mind is, oh shit. I thought, who carries this? Target did. So I didn't open mine and brought it back from the X Games and took it to Target. I said, I got it for my birthday. I don't want it. And they gave me $80.
Nice.
And that was the payday from the first X Games.
$80 for seventh place, son.
When was the first X Games? What year was that?
95.
95. Okay, yeah. And now we're looking at. It's coming up on 30 years next year. Then obviously, I could do math pretty quick sometimes.
There you go.
Yeah, so it's coming up on 30 years, and we already talked about where you came, how you learned, and everything like that, and we're flash forward to now how. Commercial the X Games are now, for lack of a better term, and it is for guys like you paving the way, earning it, and before anyone thought of it as a sport. I mean, to your point, you're like, it's more mainstream now, but it wasn't even considered a sport then. It was just a fucking hobby. You had to be in the scene to even really care about it for the most part, right? And now it's become this.
In the industry, like when I first started out, being in Missouri, and I'd see all the California kids ride like Pipeline Skate Park and Del Mar and stuff like that. that generation of pros, that was my dream. You know, oh man, they could find these, but we didn't have skate parks. So a lot of times it was a lot of us like riding in the backyard. But then when I think, you know, asking that for what you said, responding to that and thinking to this, like there was a point in my life where like, I think I've always just been a person that wants to set goals and see how far I can take things. So, you know, you just, as a kid, you know, looking like, even like in punk rock, you know, look at all these bands and just dudes in this band and whatever, Maximum Rock and Roll Zine and all that shit back in the day.
Right.
Like you go like, oh, like you start setting goals and then it becomes like, it's still fun, but now you're like, oh, I'm going to compete. And then when you start competing, it's different than just hanging out with your friends on the street doing wheelies. You know what I mean?
Right.
And now things start to change. You start to set bigger goals and build different ramps and stuff like that. But all along, we always kept it fun, man. It never turned into like, you know, it was always about the friends and the scene and riding, and then, you know, going to the contest and doing good, and then just trying to make a living at it. I mean, I bussed tables for 7 years in a restaurant. A lot of people don't know. And a lot of people do know, but like, I wasn't nuts. Things were handed to me, you know what I mean? And so like, I would work in a restaurant, save all my money and to go to contests, and then either pay for bike parts or pay for flights or injuries. And I didn't have a car. I lived in my mom's basement. I was just chasing this dream. But it wasn't really so much about like, I want to be sponsored and be famous and have all these opportunities, which all that shit's great. It was just more about like, I love the way this feels. How fucking long can I do this for? I love this feeling, you know? And I think that's why I still ride it today, you know, probably why I've been around as long as I have, is that's really what it's about for me, you know? And nowadays when kids see riding and they see the Olympics and these formulas are like, go to Woodward, do backflips in the foam pit, do it on the resi, you're on tour, you're making money, you're famous, blah, 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 blah. Hopefully they don't forget about like the feeling of it and why they do it and why they want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Oh, it absolutely
My
makes sense.
son played football, and I'm not shitting on football. I hated football. I love it now. My son plays hardcore about it. I'm all about him being what he wants to be. But what I feel like a lot of times with that too is parents, it seems like they're involved with their kid to see what their kid can get out of it for them. And it's like, I want him to get what he wants out of it for him.
Absolutely.
Like, if he wants to get a scholarship, cool. If he wants to play pro, cool. If he could do anything he wants to do, but it's not really for me. I'm just
it's his life. It's his life. He's a human being. He's a human being with his own life, his own perspective, his own goals, wishes, dreams, whatever you want to call them. And whether they make it or not, it's going to be up to them. But as a parent, you want to be supportive, of course. But that's your only job, is to support what your kid wants to do.
Yeah, and compare. I compare everything to riding. Music, I compare to bike riding. Comedy, I compare to bike riding. I just do, because this is a template of success that I've learned, and I apply it into everything. Oh, that's like if you're riding, and then it's like, oh, every room you go into is different in comedy. You might like this room, you might like that room. Oh, because that's like a skate park. You might like this park, you might not like that park. You know, I just kind of associate it. So when I associate like being successful in football as a parent and like, or as an individual, as a child, like, or a kid, then you're just like, well, don't forget about the game. You know, everybody's just trying to position and get because it's highly competitive, and I understand all of that. But at the same time, the only way you're going to get better and the only way you're going to succeed is if you're having fun at it. Don't forget about the fun here. Don't forget about why these kids are doing this, or why my son is just a beast at it. He loves the game. He loves the challenge. He loves the catch. So I'm just only here to facilitate him to, like, if you really want it, here's what it takes to be a pro. And that's on you. Right. If it's football, cool. If it's this, cool, whatever. Just remember, it's 3 simple words. Never give up. Boom.
I love that.
How old's your son?
15.
And your daughter? And how old is your daughter?
17. But my son starts school next year. He got held back from football because he was really young, and he asked for that. So that way he can go into high school. And, you know, it's a different monster than BMX. I get all that. But I guess I just brought that up because, you know, I just trying to associate it with like riding, and why I started riding and why I still ride is about the game. It's about how it feels, about the feeling it gives me. And it's got to be the same if someone's playing football. It isn't just about getting a scholarship and making your parents happy. It's about got to have some kind of joy with this shit, or what's the point? What's the point of it? You know, that's kind of how so hopefully kids that ride get the joy out of it, and they're just not about chasing this sponsorship dream, because it might not last. You know what I mean?
Right. It's also hard too with kids today with social media. are they chasing the views and the notoriety, or are they actually chasing what they want in their heart? You know what I'm saying? So
Gotta be tough as a
that's
kid. Yeah.
yeah. It's a whole new generation that parenting is different than our parents had with us. I feel like.
Right. Well, speaking of the new generation, though, I wanted to ask about the writing, and we're talking about new generations and how they're coming up. I mean, you're still writing, as you said, and your finger's still real close to the pulse. Obviously, we're talking about you're seeing all these new and upcoming. Like, who are some of the names that we should be checking out? Like, honestly, coming up on 30 years of the X Games, everything like that. What are some guys that you're seeing the passion maybe, or just the tricks that they're seeing that are just blowing your mind?
I mean, it's just crazy because it depends on the type of riding. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a contest guy, you're different than an industry guy, And like, but there's so many riders, dude. It's like there's so many different people. I mean, I see a lot of the young kids coming up, and I don't know this kid's name, but he's from Japan and he's like 8 and he's doing flares, because these kids are seeing this as something that's possible. When we were riding, we didn't see it as possibility. We were trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like we couldn't. If you're a person that sees outside the box and makes up a trick, then people go, "That's doable." You got to be the guy to make it doable, right? Nowadays, there's like so many guys making shit doable that it's kind of hard to put it on one person or one group of it, because at any given moment, there used to be 10 of us that were great. Now there's like 100 that are equally great. So it's a difficult question because there's so many dudes like that are just destroying the game. But that's like the park guys, not so much vert riding. Vert riding's died down tremendously. Like, there's no contest for BMX. Just start some shit on my own. But like an old school jam, that'd be kind of cool. But like, vert died down. Vert BMX used to be like, and vert, anyone listening, that's like the 12-foot tall ramp or 14-foot.
Yeah, the half pipe that we're talking. Yeah.
And so that used to be kind of the Super Bowl for the X Games. That's how they referred to BMX vert. And now they don't even have BMX vert. It's all park guys, street guys, dirt guys. And what's happening, the reason why, I think, is because not a lot of kids are pushed to ride vert because they don't have vert ramps. And it's just not something that the kids are seeing a successful path to go, because there's not a lot of people to ride vert with. Like, even me, if I go down to Tony's and ride vert with those guys, it's Cab and Bucky and all those guys. I'm usually the only bike rider, maybe one other guy. There's not really a vert bike scene. So all those contests have gone away, unfortunately. And it's more about park and stuff like that. Wow. So,
and you did like all kind of BMX riding, like you were saying,
do,
park industry. Because I also saw you did you were talking about doing a stunt for like some kind of commercial or something, and you were feeling sick. It was like you had to jump a semi, I believe, from one semi to another.
Oh no, I rode the side of a. Okay, it was from a show called Stunt Junkies, where we had 2 ramps that formed a channel, and then the semi drove past the ramps at like maybe 30 miles an hour, 25, 30, and then I got towed by a motorcycle, so I rode the side of the trailer that passed by.
Dude. So I guess my question, I have a question in there somewhere, but it's basically like, so like when you're doing the contest, you're doing the parks, you're doing whatever, and then you're also just doing, stunts for videos, right?
Yeah.
How did obviously I could kind of gather which came first and everything like that, but along the line, like now that you've done all the different versions of BMXing for yourself in your career, what are you most fond of? And I guess, like, what was the most fun, like, stunt? Not just like a contest or a trick during a park race or anything like that, like a video like this. Was this your favorite stunt you pulled off on a video for this, or is there another one that I haven't seen that I need to go check out?
Yeah, I mean that was dope. That was a rad stunt because I didn't know anybody that had done that before, and that was for this show called Stunt Junkies. But man, it's so much riding through the years, Like, I think just the best thing really to me is just like, the tricks are kind of like, it's more kind of like a feeling of accomplishment more than it is like a specific trick. Like, if you learn a flare, it's the same as learning a flip fakie. It's learning a tail whip. It's that feeling. It's like, tail whips aren't more fun than flares. It's that if I get the same feeling out of that trick, or I could go do like a tabletop 1-footer, right? And I get that feeling of doing even a tail whip. It's more about that for me than it is about like
where it is.
Yeah,
the environment. It's more about the pride that you have in nailing it and everything like that.
Yeah, the extensive accomplishment and setting the goals, and like, I was like, that's why I fell in love with music and comedy and stuff too. Is like you write stuff down on a piece of paper and you bring it to life. And I love that. And that's what writing was. It's like you make a trick list of these goals, these tricks you want to do, and then you start working on them. And then when you land it, you're like, whoa. And then you learn one, you're like, maybe I could do this one. It's like, whoa. But that feeling of whoa is the same feeling.
Regardless, right.
Just insert trick here with this feeling. And that's what really, and honestly, bro, I go ride like on the street to this day. I try to do it every day, but it's usually about 3 to 5 times a week through Hollywood. 10-mile ride I've been doing for like 25 years, where I just put my headphones on and pedal 10 miles on my BMX and just clear my mind and just jump curbs and dodge cars and do wheelies and hang fives and stuff. And that to me, it's even that feeling. It's just, that's freedom. I love it. Weird.
That's so
Weird
rad.
thing.
That's so rad that you still have that, like, that love for it in the sense. I mean, I know you're in your 50s now. You've been doing it for a long time, and it sounds more like the way you just describe it, looking good and strong, buddy. The way you just describe it, though, it's kind of like me with a hobby of like golf, surf, or going for a jog. It's something that's still going to be a part. I don't do any of those things, obviously, very well, or even close enough to be even a amateur at them. But there are things that I'll be able to do for physical activities I'll be able to do for a long time, and I love hearing that you're still doing that as like kind of an exercise for your body and brain, more so for your brain, because that's a lot of the things that I start doing, things like golf, running, and stuff like that. Because you're just fucking by yourself, thinking, throwing on some headphones, listening to a podcast or music, whatever. Probably a podcast, because you guys are all listening to this one right now, so keep listening. But but you keep going with that, and I guess I love that the passion's there, and it's super awesome to see you branch into other things. Now it's been 20 plus years you've been doing a lot of other shit, not just riding bikes. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Just riding bikes. As I just say, just riding bikes. But
no, I get it. Well, I would never survive. Like,
right.
Look, I'll be real with you. I competed 24 years. And when your contest placing is your value, that runs its course. The second that things become monotonous after that many years. Like I found myself sitting on the deck going, I'm doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Yeah, I love competing, but I didn't start riding just to compete. That was just a component or an element of riding. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like I didn't just start riding bikes not to compete. It's just like it's all part of it. And it just became like, monotonous after a while to be like, well, if all I do is ride a bike, I wouldn't be able to ride as much as I do right now if I didn't start a band. If I didn't host shows, if I didn't do comedy, if I didn't have podcasts, you got to reinvent yourself. I tell people that all the time. Look, I deal with a lot of athletes, or know a lot of athletes that have had a great career. Then after that, they don't know what they're going to do, and some life changes for them quite a bit. And if you have to reinvent yourself. And for me, I love riding so much that I knew, okay, how can I stay in this game and brand myself to be able to still ride and still be able to do what I love to do and still motivate and push without it just being a contest and everyone expecting me to be like, I won this contest, so pay me. Where's my money? You understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I like to challenge myself with riding. That's why I got into all the other things. But all those other things contribute to me being a bike rider. So they bounce off of each other and they help each other. And I tell dudes that all the time. Like, dude, you got to reinvent yourself. Like, even if it's wear something different, set your bike up different, do a different post, like whatever, because I have a theory that when you become predictable all the time, you're boring. And I see that with some people. Like, I'll see stuff that they post and I already know what it's going to be. It's not that I think they're boring people, but I see someone do something different. Like, whoa, that catches my attention. And I think that's the key. As much as we're in sports, it's entertainment for people. And they watch it, and
it's all under the entertainment umbrella. That's what this podcast is all about. Well, this is what this podcast is all about. I have anybody under the entertainment umbrella. That includes sports, extreme sports, of course, is in that. Wrestling, acting, comedy, other podcasts, music, whatever it is that people go to, or even just we've had people who are strictly social media, celebrities, and that's their claim to fame. But that's all entertainment to me. So anything that's underneath that umbrella is what we're bringing to the table here.
That's awesome.
Entertainment. You got Good Guys in Black. It's your band, right?
Yes.
So you mentioned on another podcast before we started talking about that in the BMX community, skating was very tied to punk.
Yep.
What was BMX into? What were riders into?
Yeah, well, the thing with BMX is like there's dudes that are musicians that play BMX for sure, but no one was really like people were into punk, but people really hadn't started punk bands. Like when you think of skating, like skate punk, and there was never like a BMX punk, even though I have that tattoo on my neck.
You have BMX punk on there? Sick.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And so it was like not following in the footsteps of skating. But there's a lot of similarities. A lot of those old skaters used to BMX before skating. There's a lot of similarities. But BMX really wasn't known to express itself like it does today as much as outside of a contest placing. Because we were kind of like not stepchildren, but like kind of like a spawn from racing. Like when I started riding in the beginning on the street and doing wheelies and shit, that was just kids having fun doing jumping curves and stuff. And then I raced. And so I didn't really like racing. That was kind of the thing to do. BMX racing was fun, but I wasn't the guy trying to outdo you and be at the finish line. It was more about expressing myself. So that was a time when BMX was trying to branch out freestyle from racing. You know what I mean? Wait, what was the initial question? I don't know what.
Oh, it was about your band. I was trying to transition into.
Yeah, we're talking about.
I want to talk about your music and comedy.
Music, and let's just call it. Let's paint this with a broader stroke. Let's just talk about the correlation between music and extreme sports. I mean that's been a thing since. I mean, all the way back. I mean, skate videos, BMX videos, all of it, and it's always not always, but for the most part, you're hearing, that punk music, Southern California style punk that has been in 100%. Those home videos since forever now, and now you got your own punk band, Good Guys in Black. So I guess I think to piggyback off Sam here, I think the question is like where did the BMXers listen to music the most? Like were they always into punk as well?
No, they were into. I mean, as far as like people were into listening to. The scene wasn't like anti-punk or anything like that. What I meant by that is like people weren't starting punk bands. BMX didn't really know that because people didn't express themselves back then like they do today. And when somebody did express themselves outside of the box of what BMX was supposed to be, it kind of got like, knocked down and hit at. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? For me, I took the gamble is that like I was like, okay, I'm gonna start Good Guys in Black. I did in 2008 because I felt like I needed a voice outside of just tricks. And I've been around, I've done so many warped tours. I've seen so many musicians. I know I could do this. I've seen it. Let's go. Let's make this happen. In the BMX world, people were a little bit more timid because they followed suit following other things like the skateboard industry, but they didn't really pick up on the music side of it. Now, dudes that had bands, don't get me wrong, but there wasn't that many. Not many people were known for it as much as like the skate world because it was like the skate vibe,
well, you got bands like CKY and stuff like that we toured with back in the day.
And then you had the Faction and then
and you have all the Jackass dudes who had their videos before as well when it was more stunts and before it became the MTV phenomenon that it did,
Yeah, and so for me, I think like it was like a perfect time to start a band because, it was rad. I mean, done a lot of cool things with it. We just played Punk in the Park last November.
Oh, were you there? Oh, we should have gone Orange County.
Yeah, it was rad. So working on new music, but for me musically, I haven't been able to go as hardcore as I want to, and I'm getting ready to because I had kids. I've been single for like 12 years. I have no family in California, and I have my kids 80 to 90% of the time. I couldn't just be like, bye. I have no one to help. And I did that intentionally to devote my time to raise my children and then to go back, and that's why I started doing comedy. And now I'm ready to do music. I haven't been able to like tour like I want to. You know what I'm saying? And like
exactly. It's tough.
That's admirable. We gotta comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
That not everybody has the. It shows that you're thinking about other people and not yourself. And I think one thing that attracted me about you when I started following you on Instagram and things like that is your positivity. You really are all about positive and other people and sharing the spotlight, not just taking it all on yourself. And hats off to you on that, man.
Oh, thanks, dude. Yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up with a dad. I mean, he left, and then I had a stepdad, which is my dad now, but it took me years to accept that, because I was just an angry kid. And then riding came into play, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna ride, But I didn't want to leave. I just felt like I toured 24 years. I had to stop. And it was a challenge for me because I've been able to maintain, do a little bit of things here and there, be able to reinvent myself, stay busy as I can. But, you know, I had to do what I had to do, you know, and I'm glad I did, but it's like huge commitment. And what was I going to do? Like, oh, sorry, I'm going on tour and there's no, you know what I mean? I couldn't do that.
Yeah, no. Again,
Now, if I was in a relationship,
very, very commendable that you did that.
And I wanted to say single. You know why? I'm married 3 times. Not doing it again. Okay? And I'm gonna get.
You're not. Wait. Never say never is a reason to say.
Gaga. You know what I mean?
If you're looking for you're looking for a sugar mama this time around.
Yeah, bro. No. And I'm not like I'm ready to go back on the road. I know being in a relationship on the road for me never worked out. So I just want to be free, man. You know what I'm saying?
Free on the road. Free on the road is a real thing, Sam. You don't understand.
Until I smell that. You want to get married? You want to move in?
Yeah.
I'll fly you out.
Hop on the pegs, babe. Let's go. No, I want to talk a little bit. I do want to bring up a little bit more about Good Guys in Black, because I was listening to it, and there's some great, you know, classic style punk rock songs. I'm hearing some Dead Kennedys in there, like some of the influences, Suicidals in there. But a song comes up that, like, while I'm listening to everything, that like stood out to me in a great way.
Which one?
Shred or Die, man, is a fucking great track.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's my favorite song from you guys, man. I'm like, no shit. I'm like, no shit. Like it's a good, like, a lot of times in punk rock, you get away with, you know, it's more about the message in a lot of ways sometimes, you know, and you can get away with not, you know, I don't want to poo-poo the musicianship, but like the chord progressions are kind of a little bit more rudimentary, right? Shred or Die, you guys got some melody and some riffage going on in that one. I was like, whoa.
Ramon shreds on guitar, man. He's badass. We've been jamming together for quite a while.
How did you guys come together, and how did that song specifically come together while we're on the subject?
I wanted to just writing songs, and I just wanted to just talk about, you know, a writing song in a sense, but not like about writing, you know, but just something that was just like, you know, I mean, there's some personal stuff in that song, you know, like Bleeding Lung is like, that happened to the last Warped Tour. I slammed so hard that I broke 7 ribs, my clavicle, my T2 vertebrae, and 2 liters of blood filled up in my lung. And just like, I think just like people try to, like, you know, stay true to yourself, and then people say things and stuff you've been through, you know, like what I used to fight for, I fought against. That line in that song was more about, like, you know, when I got a lot of popularity, my band, my industry came at me quite a bit, and you know, they got jealous, you know, and I found myself losing sponsors, and these people I'd known for a long time, and I became this kind of guy that, like, can you give me 1 second? She won't stop. I'm sorry.
All good.
She keeps blowing me up, and I told her I'm on
Tell her to come get the 20.
Natalie, I'm doing a podcast interview. You're on the podcast right now. You won't stop blowing me up. What do you want?
Hi, Natalie.
What do you want $5 for? Did you cut the grass? All right, I'll send you $10. Bye. Leave me alone now. Love you. Bye.
So she negotiated. It was 20 in the beginning, so you got her down to 5, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I got 10.
Yeah, 10. Yeah, he ended up back up at 10. So.
Oh, I said, hit up your mom, bro. She's got $14 in her account. What she wants?
I can't wait for the teenage years, Sam. Like that. That's gonna be.
I'll tell you an advantage right now about it. Ready? Hold on. One thing you can get. Oh shit. One thing you could get.
Well, now you could just Venmo him the money.
That's
now.
what I'm doing.
Yeah, there you go.
You gotta pay. That's the problem.
Yeah. You still gotta pay. You gotta request the Ubers for them. You gotta do all that stuff. So.
Then you get a car, and then you get a. I apologize.
No worries. No, I'll bring it all back because we were talking about the band.
The line. Okay, I'm sorry. The line. What I used to fight against, because people weren't used to. I got so much criticism that I stood up for bike riding. I fought people. I fought guys in high school. I always had its back. I always believed in it. I believed in what everybody was doing. This is before opportunities came in TV. Like, it was an industry in the industry world. The Illinois scene, with the Nebraska scene, with the New York cats, the LA cats. We were all kind of connected in our networking and our scene, and we'd come together in these contests, and we all shared this same type of thing. And then when the opportunities started to come, and people started to get jealous and these type of things, you know, people talked a lot of shit on me. And I'll just be real blunt with the people that, like, I got hurt by it. I got hurt by it because I thought these people were my friends. You know, I did cribs, and I was in Tony Hawk's video game and this shit. And like, people, I wasn't bragging about it, bro. I was just like, these opportunities came my way because of my personality. It wasn't because of just what trick I did. You know, I have a personality, right, and I utilize that. And so I felt like that song was like, no matter what, shred or die, stick to who you are and what you do. Because I had close friends of mine that were 20 years old, do print ads dressed up as me, making fun of me. And I was like, what the fuck is this shit? You know, what? Because I got in a video game because I did stuff with Tony Hawk, and he liked me and he wanted me in his game. Like, and you know, it hurt me because I used to defend these people, and I got so mad and so angry, and then that didn't help. And I was like, that ain't help. And so then I learned to just kind of cool out and just stay to who you are and do your thing, and realize that, like, people are people. People love you 1 minute and they're going to come at you the next. So that's what that line meant. Like, what I used to fight for, I'm fighting against. And that's what that meant. And so to me, it was like a personal song and the things that had happened in my life, but I was just trying to flip it into a positive vibe. Like, because I found myself at that point in my life not making things positive. And the more that I made them, like, the more that I chewed on it, and my life got worse. You know what I mean? And then I was like, okay. And I tell you what saved my life. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. I got a GoPro, and I started going out riding by myself, shooting photos, and I reinvented myself. I was like, all right. And then that's when I started a band, and that's when I started doing all this stuff. So, you know, it was back to the reinvention thing, you know? So yeah, that's what that song's about.
Yeah. Awesome. But how did you find the musicians to start this band with you, more specifically?
Well, it's gone through a lot of musicians, and now my band's kind of a lot like, you know, I have dudes that have been with me for a long time, but, you know, I'm kind of the root of the band, to the visionary of the band. So to say, sometimes I hire guys, or if I need a drummer and stuff like that, to keep this momentum going. Because what I found in the beginning is that, like, I was trying to understand the musical world and understand, like, hey, we're in a band, rah, rah, let's go. But it wasn't necessarily like that.
Gotcha.
Me starting a band, being popular in BMX. It wasn't like us. I thought it was us kids in the backyard, you know, going, go bike riders, no matter what. And so I found myself being sometimes around people that were involved with me for what they can get out of it, different reasons. And so then I started to put my guard up and go, all right, you know, who's in this band, who isn't in this band? And so then that way it became like, I have a group, I have a band, you know, my drummer, my bass player, my guitarist, they're in other bands as well, which is fine. But even understanding that in the beginning is something that I had to understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I went through a lot of just understanding a musician's mind. And so then I relate it back to BMX. Oh, I get it. You got good playing bass, and you're in this band. And when that runs its course, you'll be in that band. Okay, I get it. That's the road you're going to take. It's like being sponsored. I got good enough to be sponsored, and I ride for this brand, and I ride for that brand, and I made a name for myself. And I realized that that's a lot of similarities with some musicians in the musical world. And it wasn't so much about them being in a band with me. It was more about them, like, what they can get from it. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And that's where sometimes things got weird. And I was like, okay. And at one point in time, I quit Good Guys and Black and just did my name, and I did some stuff with the Addicts and some other bands. But I was playing Good Guys and Black music. And then I felt like, man, I didn't really find my sound with what I wanted to do. And that's when I went back. And one of the first songs we wrote was Shred or Die, as like Good Guys and Black. So I'm like, I'm sticking to my thing. I'm not going to give up on my thing. And yeah, so that's why it's been.
Yeah, and it's been different because you got to find your tribe, right? The other guys that are going to have the passion for it, even if they got other gigs going on. Like you, I mean, you just named several, but you still got to have a passion for it and make some time for it, right? But
that was just me understanding that world, because I thought it was a lot like the BMX world, because that's where I came from, and I realized real quick it's not. it's as similar as I thought, you know.
Right. But you did get a lot of connections to the BMX world, and you just mentioned a couple there. You mentioned Tony Hawk, Caballero, who's been on the podcast, on your podcast as well, Rick Thorne podcast. You've had some of your friends and other celebrities in the industry and other industries that you come up. I mean, I know you were hosting some shows in the late '90s. I guess is the story of how you met someone like Vin Diesel, who eventually brought you on as an actor on Triple X, and it was just because he liked you, right? And I guess I have a question there too. It's kind of a twofold question, really. Is when he said he likes you and wants to put you in a movie, as he's doing research for Triple X, obviously, you know, that had a lot of the X Games stuff in it, in a big blockbuster movie, which is, you know, great for the extreme sports that you're involved in, and you're a great ambassador to have. So all of this makes sense with Vin Diesel bringing you in. But as an actor versus, I mean, was there any conversation to have you just come in as a stunt actor versus actual like screen time, like with lines and stuff?
No, and that was weird about it is because like when you ride bikes, okay, hosting TV shows isn't the same. If you acting isn't hosting. You know what I mean? No. It's all different. And he came out to the X Games in 2001, I think, Philadelphia X Games, and he was like trying to, you know, studying the culture. And I at the time I was doing a show for ESPN called X Today. I did that show for 5 years for them, and it was a monthly show. And I didn't know who he was, and no disrespect, I just didn't know who he was. Mm-hmm. And they said, you're going to interview Vin Diesel for this movie coming out. I said, oh, cool. I didn't really think about it. It's like, okay, it's an actor guy, and like, I'm going to interview him. And then he liked my look, and he put me in the film. The acting I did, I played a lot off myself, but I had been doing so much TV up to that point that a lot of my hosting style was very improv. So, you know, I'd go on a set. The way I learned, no one ever told me this, but if I come on a set to host, what's my props? This environment. So that show was a lot like at events and contests and stuff. So you were able to improv a lot. So you felt like you were kind of doing some improv acting, hosting anyways. So it didn't seem like it was too difficult to do because we were playing our world, right? We were kind of playing off of ourselves. But after that movie, I got into acting school and graduated in Santa Monica at this school called Baron Brown Studios. I wanted to learn how to act. I'm ready to act now. I want to act, and I wanted to learn the differences of it all, you know. And you know, can I make myself cry? You know, that kind of stuff. And yeah, so everything in my life has really kind of happened organically. It's never been it hasn't been like a planned thing, you know, like which is, I guess, even this interview right now, when you hit me up and say be on podcast, it's like cool. Like I like that feeling of like organically meeting people and connecting with people and stuff. And that's kind of how my whole career in life has been. And even working with Tony Hawk, like the first show we did a show in Detroit, and it was a parking lot. It was a Detroit State Fair. And it was me, Matt Hoffman, and Tony Hawk, and Dennis McCoy on Burt. And it's the first time we had done shows with skaters. Pretty about the first time. And then Joan Jett was right next to us on this pop-up stage. And a tornado came and shit and blew off the stage. She ran off with her guitar. It was crazy. And we became friends. And so, you know, it wasn't like me pressing at Tony going, hey, Tony, let me be in your video game. Hey, Tony, let me host your tour. Hey, it was always just like, hey, do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, that sounds rad. So I've been pretty blessed with that energy. But, you know, you I guess, I don't know, I'm rambling on, but if you get the opportunity to someone gives you an opportunity, say yes. And if you don't know how to do it, figure it out.
Right. Well, no, I mean,
I don't want to pass it up. I'm not an actor, Ben. I'll be like, okay, let me figure this out. This sounds cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's the fake it till you make it, you know, old adage. I guess it's an old adage now. But, you know, I'm an actor. I love taking away. Yeah. I love taking away from your story there, though. And I think everyone can, listening and watching at home, guys, like it pays off to be nice and be a good person to everyone you're meeting, regardless if they're fucking Tony Hawk or whoever, or just the fan, the other person, doesn't matter. Something's going to come out. Even if you look at it selfishly, you're going to get more out of being nice anyway. But unselfishly, like, we're all in this fucking together. This shit is falling in Rick's lap. I could speak for myself. A lot of things that I've had in my successful career has been things that just kind of fall into my lap and I just go with. And And I don't think that that's only true in our lines of work or our lines of life. I believe that to be something that just out on a daily basis without the name or celebrity quote unquote status that we have, just being that way, you know, a lot of that can keep going. I mean, Sam's got to be able to talk to it. He's got no fame, you know what?
No, exactly. And as much as I'm biting my tongue, but you said it, I mean, before I even had a chance to, like, just even in a normal 9 to 5, be good. You want people to do things for you because they want to do it, not because they have to. And you'll get a lot more out of people, and people will give you more opportunities. Because I heard Rick kind of said this, I think, with Joel Jimenez about just being good, and people want to bring you along. You'll get more opportunities by just give out what you want to receive, and people will want to work with you. And that's in any industry, not just entertainment. That could be in your food service job. That could be in your project management job. That could be in your anything. Just being good and working hard. It's not just that. It's a bunch of them. There's
a lot of things, but that, you know, this is just one of the things that we're talking about. But being good, when we say things happen organically, when artists, I'm learning it more and more after doing this show. We're coming up on 200 episodes here soon. With everybody in different walks of life under this umbrella we're talking about. You know, it's not just being nice for the sake of getting something or anything in return. It's when you hear artists say it happened organically, what they're talking about is they sparked up an organic friendship that had something fruitful in it, and not without an agenda. That's organic. That's what it is. Like, so when you hear organically,
find people like that too sometimes.
Especially now,
it's hard to find people like that sometimes.
Oh, absolutely, because everyone's got their agenda, which is understandable. We all live in this one perspective. We don't get another one. So what are you going to think about the most? And it's hard to shed that. That's the ego talking too, and it's hard to shed that. That's something that at least people are talking about these days, is shedding that ego and being more true to yourself and letting things happen organically just by being a fucking good person. That's how Rick fucking hangs out with these guys. It wasn't just because he was a BMX biker. You know, he could have been an asshole to Tony and never talked to him again after that fucking first meeting, you know? And now you're talking, you know, now you're buddies with the Hall of Famer, you know, all these things. And, and it happened organically because you were a good fucking person.
Oh, thanks, dude. And I'll tell you this much too. It's also what I've learned a lot about the brain and your mind and the subconscious mind. You always hear PMA, positive mental attitude, the punkers, and they always give credit to Bad Brains for that, which Bad Brains is amazing. Right. I love the band, and I love HR, and I love all that shit. But there's a guy named Napoleon Hill that was before him that wrote Think and Grow Rich, and he came up with the PMA. It's a positive mental attitude, and it's about what you say and think. Your subconscious, I didn't know this as a kid, but which is what your mind thinks. But what you say and think is what your subconscious mind will act on, because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between hot or cold, rich or poor, high or low. It only goes off of what you think and say. What you say, like say I'm broke. Then your subconscious mind will go, cool, let me find you broke. That's how your brain is wired. And when I learned that, and I learned that your subconscious mind never goes to sleep, I go, that's why they said don't fall asleep in front of the TV. I get it now, because you're consuming all this stuff, and your subconscious mind is listening and acting on it. So it took me years to figure this out, right? But talking about organically meeting people and vibrations is everything that I'm doing in my life were all goals of mine. I remember I made a list of all the things I wanted to do in my life at some point. Because my mom always said, make a list of things that you want to do. And all the comedy, music, writing, acting, they were all on the list. It wasn't like, so in a weird kind of way, or it's organically, but it's also my positive, my vibration is open to that. I'm seeing that more when those opportunities come, rather than closing it off. Because I'm open, like I tell my subconscious mind what I want to do and what I want to be, and as an organic person, as a cool person, all that too, and things have happened organically. But I think also too, part of it is also too my vibration that I've sent, that I keep sending all the time, is being involved in all of these industries that I love so much, and so you run into people when you least expect it. You know what I mean? The other day,
you gotta be open-minded and be ready to embrace those moments too.
Dude, I walked into Supercross.
Luck is the residue of the ready, as they say.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I walked into the Supercross the other day, and just as I'm pulling out and walking around the corner with my kid, hey, come on, let's go. Boom. Hey, what's up, man? Oh, how you been? Cool. Trey Cool. Green Day.
Very cool. Green Day, yeah.
Weird shit like that happens
Such
all
a
the
good
time.
dude, by the way. Love that dude.
It's super good, dude. But weird shit like that happens to me all the time. It's like right place, right time, or well, I would say wrong place. But you see where I'm going with it. Like it's organic vibe. I never wanted anybody trying to get anything. But at the same time, I know what I want to do, and I've learned to tell myself that. Listen, I used to sleep to audiobooks, because I wanted to change. I've been married 3 times, and I wanted to change my life, man. And like, I went from having these things, and I worked from Missouri to get a house in Beverly Hills, and was living that life for a long time, and had a wife and kids. And then industry came at me, and things took a major day. I had to let go of the house, move back in a little apartment, start over, filed bankruptcy, the whole shit, and kept my head up and kept going. And I wanted to change my vibration when it came to like relationships and stuff, and people that I want to meet and people that I want to be around, and where I want myself to go. And so what I started to do was look at things in my life, be honest with myself about the things in life that I do and that I would want to change. And I found literature and audiobooks about things, to self-improvement or whatever. And then when I listened to Napoleon Hill say your brain never sleeps, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to sleep to these audiobooks and reprogram my brain. Reprogram. And dude, it took a long time, but I've learned to be with myself to where I don't have to be like with someone in a relationship, even if it's toxic. So I'm not alone, that abandonment issue and all those things. And now I see the flags I would have never saw before. And maybe that comes with experience in life, but sometimes not. Sometimes people keep making the same thing over and over again.
That goes back to being open-minded and looking at everything for what it is. And I love you talking about it, man. Having the vision before. I mean, we got to come up with something for Rick Thorne over here. It's not an EGOT because you got to have the extreme sports in there too, or BMX. And so he's on the rise for something. It's not quite the EGOT. But coming back, before I let you go, I gotta run, go pick up my son as we're talking about being parents here.
I didn't mean to take it there, but I couldn't help myself because I'm like, oh,
no, it's fantastic.
No. This is all fantastic, Rick.
I want to get the comedy. You're gonna have to come back another time.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. There's so much more. Yeah, I'm coming on. I'll come on your podcast. We both will. We'll absolutely do that. There's so much more. We'll have you back on. Just absolutely, like new friendship, obviously here.
Yeah, dude.
Really appreciate your time. There is one more thing, but before I even,
I'll make it quick. I'll make it quick because I talk a lot.
No, this is why you're great at your podcast. Everyone could go. Yeah. Everyone could go check out more from Rick Thorne. That's with an E on the Thorne, for those of you who don't know. And it's everywhere. Easy enough to find. Social media, fucking comedy, music, Good Guys in Black. Every all the things that we've been talking about here. And there's so much more we could have gotten into. Running a little short on time. We'll have you back to get it a little bit deeper. But there is the last thing I had to talk about in your acting career. You did Triple X, but then you followed it up with the role with Kevin James and Paul Blart, fucking Mall Cop. Wanted to know quickly how that happened. And then the other one was Andy Dick. And I heard you talking about Andy Dick on some other shows and stuff, and how he just like seemed to always be there around and stuff like that. Was that another organic thing? And
you got a movie
what are
coming
these
out
guys
with him, right?
like? What are these guys like? The Andy Dick one's coming out, right?
Yeah, no, Andy Dick. Yeah, Andy Dick's cool. I mean, he was at the MTV Sports and Music thing, and I actually did a movie with him and Julie Roberts. What's his name?
Eric Roberts.
Yeah, Eric Roberts. They were both in this film, and the film was called. You'll laugh because it wasn't like it was just fun. Okay, Alien Vampire Busters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude.
I fought some aliens. And it was cool. It was
another. So my question there though is another organic. I imagined it was more organic with meeting with Andy since he was always around. How was it with Kevin James? I know I heard you talking to Jason Ellis, the Wolf over there. Well, he was on the set too for some reason, right?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah, he was another. We were the guys that took over the mall. We were the bad guys.
Right. That's right. So,
really huge, though.
was that also an organic thing that you came to that you?
Well, that was an audition.
That was an audition for the Kevin James movie. Okay.
Yeah, and I thought it was just they didn't say anything about bike riding. They didn't want to, and I didn't want to be. I'll make this quick. I didn't go to acting school to play bike rider because I'm not gonna. You know what I mean?
You don't need that. That's already in your repertoire.
You're not gonna work. And so, and not that much, you know. And so I was like, okay. So I just said, I did this audition, and then they called me back. And then I go there, and then Kevin James is there, and everybody's there. I was like, oh, this is like bigger than I thought. And then I didn't know that I was even riding my bike until we did a table read, and I'd already got the part. And so, and then I put two together. Mike Vallely, Mike Escamilla, Ellis, me, we're all like these figures in the action sports world, but we weren't playing it, but we had to ride and stuff. But that was a rad time, man. I mean, the thing about that movie is it's kind of like a Christmassy movie. So they kind of play it every season quite a bit, which is good because good for us because, you know, we still get some royalty checks, but it's also good to keep your name out there, especially when you're trying to keep working. So, but that, yeah, Kevin James was the best. The first time I met him, he walked up and he knew everybody's name and shook everybody's hand. It was so impressive, total professional. I met Adam Sandler on the set of that. Like, it was great, man. It was good.
Dude.
Yeah.
So that must have been such a fun set. Again, I think I could do a whole episode just asking you about each you know, career that you lead. Again, I just want to thank you for sharing some of these stories. We have each other's numbers now. We'll be in touch. I'll do your podcast. You come back on this one. Yes. I mean, we're not that far from each other. Let's hang without the cameras too, brother.
Let's do it, bro. I'm down for sure.
All right, man. Well, thanks.
Appreciate you guys.
Hey, we appreciate you. Man. Everyone go check out more from Rick Thorne. Thank you guys for checking out the episode. You know what to do with those subscribes and fucking comments and all that shit. I say it every goddamn week. So thank you guys for being here. As always, till next time. Cheers.
Stay rad.
Yes.